Now on 4, a decade of faces from the north.
The people!
A quarter of a century ago, some fresh-faced young men made their television debut. They were noisy and uppity, and they flaunted a strong Liverpool accent. Just down the road in Manchester, when Channel 3 was new, ITV saw the debut of another fresh-faced newcomer in May 1956. The station that gave the Beatles a break was also noisy and bothersome, and it too announced its regional origins with a swagger. Although the new company was part of an ITV network that swept away the BBC's 20-year television monopoly, Granada's opening programme jauntily celebrated the opposition.
This is the BBC television service at Alexandra Palace.
Those are the actual words spoken by Jasmine Bligh, which opened the first television service in the world. Now, why should Granada, the latest competitor of the BBC, want to talk about it on its opening night? The right man to answer that question is Granada's chairman, Mr. Sidney Bernstein. Sidney, why are you doing this?
Well, it's a kind of Valentine to the BBC. I've watched their television service since it started, and I respect what they've done. I only hope we can do as well.
Well, as you know, I share your respect for the BBC. But tell me, in what way do you think the North are going to differ in their tastes from...
Well, they're an indigenous, homogeneous cultural group. Their roots are in the North. They're not displaced persons living in the South. I think their requirements are different. They still want the best. What's good enough for London will be good enough for the North. But they want something in addition, and I think we'll provide it.
Some early Granada guests had their doubts.
You must remember that, on the whole, readers of the Manchester Guardian, being intelligent people, don't watch commercial television very much.
Mr. Hill, what has television given you?
Well, nervous dyspepsia, indigestion, heartburn.
Yes.
I'm worried, this is my BBC thing.
Yeah, very small checks.
Small checks.
What? No, you're having me on. What size are Granada chicks? What's the word in the business?
Well, you know, how do you spell, you know.
Some early programmes did reveal an aptitude for tight budgeting.
Look, she's going down.
Yes, it's a pity about the Cotopaxis, son.
Papers! All the papers!
What the papers say.
But some things worked from episode 1.
This week, the deputy editor of The Spectator, Brian Inglis.
Good evening. Out of Hungary yesterday came one of the most moving messages that a news agency has ever received. The last signal from the British United Press Office in Budapest before the Russians moved in. Goodbye. We do not forget you. The Russians are too near. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Save our souls. This morning, Hungary was, once again, the main news in the papers. But on Hungary, the newspapers here are united. What more is there to say? Not so on Suez. And it's because of their reaction to the Suez crisis that what the papers say has been more important, I think, than ever before in their history. Not just for what they say, but...
30 years and 1,448 editions later, What the Papers Say is Britain's longest-running weekly series. It declared from the beginning a special appetite for television journalism.
Granada's travelling eye tonight brings you the third and last report on the first television by-election. Our cameras are inside the counting room at Rochdale Town Hall, and Brian Inglis is waiting there for you.
Good evening. I'm standing right inside the counting room at Rochdale.
Around me, the count to decide this first television by-election is going ahead energetically. The three candidates are watching the votes being counted. Ludwig Kennedy, the Liberal, Jack McCann, Labour, and John Parkinson, Conservative. Yes, there's Mr. Kennedy now, facing us. He's hidden behind, now you can just see his face. He's slightly hidden behind that man here. He's facing across. Yes, that's him. Now you can see him full face. Well, you could for a moment.
Granada's cameras may have had problems finding Ludovic Kennedy, but new doors were open to television at Rochdale in 1958.
The relationship between television and the politician should be at arm's length. The eye of the camera should pursue the politician to the very limits of privacy and decency. And when the politicians complain, as they have in several countries, that television turns their proceedings into a circus, it should be made clear that the circus was already there, and that television has merely demonstrated that not all the performers are well trained. But never at any time should television leave the politician alone, except when he seeks refuge in his home, or when he becomes so boring as to drive viewers back to radio or to a good book.
In 1959, the election marathon came close to the boredom barrier, but it also broke new ground.
Hello again. This is the election marathon, fourth day on the air. In this series of programs, Granada gives to every candidate in the northern region the chance to address you, the electors.
But the serious approach wasn't the only Granada offering of the late 50s.
Oh, what's the giddy idea, eh? You know, halfway through the morning. You sick?
Oh, as a matter of fact, yes, sir.
What's the matter with you?
Well, sir, I've got a touch of rheumatoid halitosis in me back, sir. Just, you have a feel, sir.
Oh, get back. Hey, gym shoes, eh?
Oh, yes. It's me feet, sir. Makes you sick to look at them, doesn't it, sir? But you can't talk to them. See, I'm excused boots, sir. Got bad feet.
Oh, go away. Now, what's the matter with you? You got bad legs, I suppose.
Oh, no, sir. It's just that they've gone baggy at the knees.
Gone at last.
No, I've not.
Oh, you're gone.
No, I haven't.
Peaceful in his sleep, I thought, and you come up at me like a volcanic corruption.
You'll know when I'm going, I'll take my teeth out.
This, incidentally, you should see it while I have it out. I flash it all the time because it makes me look jazzy and elegant. And it's an antique and gold. My grandfather, on his deathbed, sold me this watch.
Give over.
Oh, what's up?
My foot's stuck in your glove compartment.
What are you grumbling about? I'll give you 3 guesses where this gear lever is. 10 miles over Dos Rios.
Sometimes the humour didn't seem altogether intentional. Biggles was a phenomenon of the early 60s.
Come on, let's make it fast. I want to know what friend Starline's up to. See, what's that? Yeah.
Hey, things like that, Father, got outraged.
What? Hey, fasten your seatbelts and hold tight, lads, because I'm going underneath it.
Is this too much like playing soldiers?
Yeah, I can't... Whoop.
They got our port wings stripped.
Yeah, and I can't hold it either. Hold your hats on, we're going down.
Other Granada drama of the late 50s had more conviction.
Now get you home. My wife is waiting with your work.
Susanna York and Sean Connery starred in Arthur Miller's The Crucible.
She's only gone silly somehow. She'll come out of it.
So she flies, eh? What are her wings?
John, sure you're not believing she flies?
The road past my house has been a pilgrimage to Salem all morning. And this town's mumbling witchcraft.
We were dancing in the woods last night. My uncle lived in on us. She took fright is all.
Dancing by moonlight.
John, give me a word, a soft word.
No, Abby. I come to see what mischief your uncle's up to now.
John, I'm waiting for you every night.
You'll put it out of mind, Abby. I'll be coming for you no more.
You're surely sporting with me.
You know me better.
What way is that?
A young Michael Caine sounded convincingly north of Bow Bells in Hobson's Choice.
And everything I've seen, I've liked. I think you'll do for me.
What does you want me for?
To invest in your business idea in the shape of a man.
Hey, I've no head for business at all.
But I have. My brain and your hands will make a working partnership.
Oh, partnership?
Aye.
Oh, that's a different thing. I thought you were asking me to wed you.
I am.
But you're the master's daughter.
Maybe that's why. Maybe I've had enough of father, and you're as different from him as any man I know.
But it's a bit awkward, like, you talking to me like this.
I'll tell you something, Will. It's a poor sort of woman who'll stay lazy when she sees her best chance slipping from her.
I'm your best chance?
Yeah, that.
Well, by gum, I never thought of this.
From the beginning, Granada programmes found a stream of promising newcomers. In 1962, this rising star.
We have to remember, as far as the British Parliament is concerned, that there are still only 25 women members out of a total of some 630 members of Parliament. So it's still not easy even to get elected as a woman member of Parliament. Once we're there, then in some parts the atmosphere seems very much like that of a men's club, and we have to be reasonably tactful.
The government have met every crisis with panic measures and restrictions, which hold down production and hold back investment, so that when the next crisis comes, the nation's economic base is too narrow and too thin to sustain the burdens and strains which are put on it.
Indeed, a woman has never held office in any of those really big departments of state, which are the major positive policy-making departments. I don't know why this is. I'm sure that it's not lack of ability. Perhaps the real reason is that it is, after all, a man, the Prime Minister, who makes the appointments.
What do other women think of their male leaders?
I think they stink. Women should be in charge. There'd be peace and no bomb at all.
Come, you masters of war, you that build all the guns, you that build the...
A 1967 documentary about Manchester University featured another young woman on the way up.
You that hide behind walls, you that hide behind desks, I just want you to know I can see through your masks.
A celebrated bow tie was already in place 26 years ago.
May have made a very long speech, Mr. Walker-Smith, but on the other hand, the psychiatrist, who's a member of the Medical Research Council, has just told us that there is not enough research on mental health.
Young Germaine Greer risked a pre-feminist flutter.
It takes a fairly hefty breeze to blow my skirts above my knees, but it takes a hurricane once up to blow them down again.
This is it then, the licorice root, the sweetest tasting laxative of all time. It was even praised by the ancient Greeks for being thus. But it means more than a laxative to generations and generations of North Country people. It's become, through the years, an institution, as much a part of the northern scene as antimacassars and tea cosies and shawls and clogs. And like those institutions, it's going, it's disappearing. In 2 months' time, it'll be no more. Another northern institution will be dead and buried. Buried, in fact, in a field in Pontefract. Good night.
But another northern institution has survived and prospered since episode 1 on December the 9th, 1960.
I'm Mrs. Sharples.
I'm very pleased to meet you.
I'm a neighbour.
Oh.
You're a widow woman?
Well, yes.
I thought so. I'm the caretaker at the Bad Tidings Hall.
Oh, that's just across the street, isn't it?
What's your place of worship?
I don't really do much about it.
Oh, I know. C of E.
Oh, I wouldn't say I
Oh,
was
it's like my
anything, really.
sister's husband. You know, he was made head of the plumbing where they lived, and it gave her ideas. She said, we're civic dignitaries now. We must head for church. Within a week, they were received, christened, and confirmed. Within a fortnight, she was sitting up all night, sewing surplices. I'll take a packet of baking powder.
The startled residents of Salford's real Coronation Streets witnessed a more disturbing scene. This dramatic presentation was a striking example of the Granada way of documentary in the early 60s.
In Britain, bronchitis killed 39,148 people in 1963, the last full year for which official statistics are available.
The death rate from bronchitis in Britain is already twice that of Italy, which is the next worst sufferer, 13 times as high as in France, and 24 times higher than in the United States.
In this reconstruction, the people are actors, but this is exactly what happened. Shortly before 4:30, the Russian, whom we will continue to call Gordon Lonsdale for convenience, parked his American car outside the theater. Crossing into Waterloo Road, he turned southwards, a little way behind Harry Horton and Ethel G. He caught up with them, clasped them round the shoulders, and took from Ethel G a shopping basket containing 2 small parcels. At the same time, disguised police cars closed in. Detective Superintendent George Smith of Scotland Yard's Special Branch confronted the trio. He said, "You are under arrest. I'm a peace officer." All 3 were taken separately to Scotland Yard. The shopping basket went too. Its 2 small parcels contained secret documents stolen from the Navy's top security underwater weapons research establishment at Portland by Ethel G.
During the last year, 24 people were knocked down on this stretch of roadway. And this is not a black spot. It's in an area which is road conscious. But even here, the mass toll of victims makes a frightening picture.
This program is about VD, venereal disease.
The special treatment clinics are usually in the basements of hospitals. It somehow seems to make for a feeling of privacy. It may take a bit of courage at this stage.
Good afternoon. Can I help you?
Five o'clock, the hour fixed by the Committee of 100 to put its civil disobedience campaign into operation. The plan to meet in Trafalgar Square, form into a procession, and march nearly half a mile to Parliament Square, there to sit in the road and paralyze traffic. Among those in the square are Mr. John Osborne, the playwright, and Miss Redgrave with Miss Sheila Delaney.
From 1963, the flagship of Granada's documentary was World in Action, strident journalism with a campaigning intent. It was the first weekly current affairs program on British television to escape from the front men and the studio, onto film, and into the fracturing world of the 1960s. From the mid-60s, World in Action's investigative journalism provided a shock or two.
Tonight, World in Action admits to commissioning a crime, the crime of sanctions busting. The place is a street in Salisbury, the capital of Rhodesia. The man is Meb Cutluck, a World in Action reporter. Inside the parcel is a motor car back axle, one of the many items Britons are specifically forbidden to send to Rhodesia under the sanctions laws.
We sent the axle there as a test to show graphically just how easy it is to beat the sanctions laws and how delighted British firms are to help you do it. The test is part of a World in Action investigation into the illegal trade with Rhodesia. Any Rhodesian in need of a rusty lump of cracked metal should contact World in Action.
There was another, more reflective tradition of documentary in the 60s.
When I left home for the first time, I felt a bit, sad. You can't explain it, but, it's the first time ever I've been away, except for a week's holiday. Well, this job is different to the school, because at the school, everything's, all right. Like on board a ship, it's rolling and there's spray coming at you.
I, Donald.
That's right. I, Donald, take the Pamela.
Take thee, Pamela.
To my wedded wife.
To my wedded wife.
20 years ago saw the first documentaries made on videotape.
From this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
According to God's holy ordinance.
According to God's holy ordinance.
And thereto I plight thee my troth.
And thereto I plight thee my troth.
The Entertainers, another video documentary, was banned for obscenity and then reprieved as the 60s loosened up.
Misbehaving.
In purple, write Regan is a Negro.
In the thick of the swinging 60s, Granada tracked down beautiful people on a London Coronation Street.
Fan letter.
Oh, let's have
Dear
a look.
Leslie Twiggy.
I had one this
Sweden.
morning, I know.
Who?
She said she wants me to write to her all the
Where-
time.
where at? All the time?
Yeah, be her pen friend. Can't have got. Oh dear. Fill that with sugar. I'm on one.
Do you want me to read this one?
Yeah.
Dear Leslie Twiggy,
Yes.
I have read in a Swedish paper
Tom.
that you are going to be world famous.
Have you no ambitions to form a group yourself?
Love to with the boys.
Yes.
The only thing is I'd have to
The
change my
God
name, you see. I'd have to have a name like Cliff or Rock, something earthy.
Well,
I don't know, eh?
Cliff Dodd.
No.
Rock Dodd.
No, let's invite suggestions for an earthy name for me.
Yeah, well, what about that fellow?
Eh?
Sod.
In July 1967, World in Action recorded one of the most memorable encounters of the decade.
With Mick Jagger are William Rees-Mogg, editor of the Times newspaper, Father Thomas Corbishley, a leading British Jesuit, Lord Stowe-Hill, formerly Sir Frank Soskis, who has been Home Secretary and Attorney General, and Dr. John Robinson, Bishop of Woolwich and author of the controversial reassessment of Christianity, Honest to God.
And now you're sitting in this garden with a bench full, or a garden seat full, of the establishment opposite you. Do you think that the society that you live in is one you ought to rebel against, or do you think you're rebelling against it?
Yes, definitely rebelling against it. I mean, not in the obvious way that a newspaper or pop sort of headline would do it. But obviously we feel there are things wrong.
As the black and white 60s became jaded and swinging London turned sour, James Cameron offered an epitaph for a decade.
To me, it seems somehow as though the young, and perhaps not only the young, had quite suddenly decided that their world is in need of a new dimension altogether, where the old formulas are irrelevant. They can't define it, because the right words aren't ready yet. So they call out the symbol words, the names of things that for them have an intrinsic meaning of love or hate. Cuba, Vietnam, Guevara, no bomb, peace. And they write over the whole of the establishment the word why, as though it had never been asked before. And perhaps it hasn't properly. What it means is, the world is dead, long live the world.
It is the duty of the politician to see to it that the controls imposed on television do not prevent it from being a medium where ideas may compete for the allegiance of the viewer. And it is the duty of those who control television to use it as a sound mirror to reflect conditions as they are. If what is reflected on the end of that tube is bigotry, poverty, discrimination, or prejudice, that's good and wholesome, so long as the picture be true. Where there is controversy, it must be reflected. Television must find at least a little time to remind us of our inheritance. And it must find more than a little time for the dissenters, the heretics, the minority spokesmen, who may be tomorrow's majority.
Is that it?
That's it.
Is he checking the post?
As we say in Granada land, no star. Good night.
Always at the forefront of current affairs, World in Action pooled its entire resources to cover the anti-Vietnam demonstration in 1968, filming from perspectives of both police and demonstrators. And there's a chance to see that demonstration in just a minute.
Documentaries which span a world of interests.
So this is what flying by the seat of the pants is all about. Two anxious aviators in tiny aeroplanes on a beach hopping expedition into the wilderness.
Underwater adventurers with a fondness for sharks.
They're darn hard animals to work with. I'd much rather go and work with minnows or angelfish or something like that.
A high-tech expedition to navigate 70 miles through the Grand Canyon of the Stickeen River in British Columbia, one of the most dangerous stretches of white water in the world. And in Greece, the Hidden War, Greek villagers look back on events leading up to the Civil War.
Churchill is one of the greatest agents of the victory against Hitler. And nobody can dispute his enormous contribution to the struggle against Nazism. But for us, the Greeks, he was the greatest tyrant because he continued to keep Greece tied to Britain.
Distinctive documentaries for the new year on Channel 4.